Hey, peace and love, everybody. It's Royce Thomason back for another Sunday Hope and Healing session. Today is the 26th of June, 2022. And as always, I'm glad to be here with you, sharing love and light and healing and encouragement and just good vibes overall. I hope that everybody is doing well, that you find yourself experiencing yourself as being blessed because you certainly are. We also recognize that there are things that happen in life, things that take place that can be kind of challenging, that can be difficult, that can be, kind of tough to navigate. And we honor that as well. And we know that sometimes things unfold in life in a way that we didn't plan to. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations that we didn't think that we find ourselves in. And we try to figure out how are we going to get through this? How are we going to move through this? And so we have these Sunday Hope and Healing sessions at 1 o'clock Eastern Time every Sunday. Unless I'm teaching a class, then we may not have it that week. But as a general rule of thumb, we do this every Sunday. If you know anybody who deals with pain or any type of health condition or issue, I ask that you share this with them. Share this, whether it be to your Facebook timeline, send them a text, inviting them. If you're on YouTube, share the link. With people who you feel like would be blessed as a result of it. As you see scrolling across the bottom of the screen, we actually are here to offer some healing on the spot. We've done it on many occasions on a Sunday afternoon, and we're more than happy to offer healing for anybody who's interested. Okay, good morning to you, whoever is in Mountain Standard Time. It only shows up as Facebook user on this end, which suggests you must be in a group. If you're in a group, then it doesn't show your picture. It doesn't show what your name is. You have to give StreamYard a special permission to do that. If you are watching on my own personal YouTube, my own personal Facebook page, or if you're watching on YouTube, it'll show your name and your picture if you have a picture set. But if you're in a group such as the Transcending the Matrix group, or if this is shared in another group, we won't see that information. But anyway, peace and love and welcome to everybody who's here today. We'd love to know who's here. If you would be open to just saying a quick hello. The only way I have of knowing who's here is if you actually comment. I can't even see who's present. Or if you like it or love it or react in any kind of way. I'm not able to see that until after the broadcast is over. But as I was saying before, we're here each week. I believe that something that I heard while I was a student in college, that service is the rent that we pay for living on this planet. I believe that we are all called to, in some way, contribute to the greater good. We're all called to serve in some capacity. I believe that God has given each of us certain interests, given each of us certain abilities, certain things that we're passionate about, and that we have an ability to make a difference in people's lives. Greetings, Reverend Shirley. Good to see you this afternoon. Hope that you're doing well today. I believe that each of us has things that we've been downloaded, things that are really a part of our divine blueprint, if you will, things that are a part of what makes us who we are, things that God designed and programmed into us, if you will. I use that word programmed sparingly, because usually when I say programmed, I'm not meaning it in a positive way in the context of the Matrix and all that. But there are certain things that are just a part of who we are. And for those of us who are open to it and receptive, I believe that we'll find that there have been certain things that we've been endowed with certain interests that we have that we're called to cultivate and to, in some way, use it in service towards humanity and service towards the planet and service in some kind of way. And for me, um, I'm an uplifter, I'm an encourager, I'm an exhorter, and and a healer. Now, ultimately, make no mistake about it, God is the healer. Uh, and I'm very clear that I get to enjoy the blessing of being a vessel of healing. God is the healer. I'm a vessel. Love is the tool. And the thing of it is that this healing, it's not just something that's limited exclusively to me. It's something that's been sitting dormant really in all of us. We just need to know how to access it. We just need to know how to access it. And so the reality is that in this experience of being a human being living on planet Earth, we do end up experiencing sickness. We do end up experiencing dis-ease. And that may show up in different forms. It may show up in the form of cancer. It may show up in the form of the itises. I'm not just talking about the itis that you experience when you get sleepy after you eat, but I mean uh, arthritis, laryngitis, tonsillitis, all of those things. We do experience it sometimes in the form of things like physical pain, chronic fatigue. You know, we experience it in terms of mental health challenges, you know, high degrees of tension and stress. And speaking of tension, hypertension, heart disease, cardiovascular illness. And we have all of these different ways that human beings living on planet Earth end up experiencing various forms of sickness and dis-ease, things that occur when the body is not operating in what's referred to as homeostasis. Homeostasis is the balance in which is really our natural birthright. Okay, these bodies that were awesomely and wonderfully made, they were designed to heal themselves. They really were. And really, the most of the problems that we have with our bodies are things that really are the result of falling out of alignment, operating in a way that is not consistent with the way that the body was designed to operate. If I use an analogy, you take a car, an automobile, and let's say your automobile is designed to operate with 33 foot-pounds of air pressure in the tires. And you can drive the car with 20 or 19 and the car will still roll. You can drive it with 10 and it'll still roll. You'll still be able to drive, but it won't be operating optimally. What's going to start happening is there's less air pressure in the tire. You're not going to be getting the same fuel mileage. What's going to start happening is that you're going to wear the tire out more quickly. What's going to happen is it won't just be the treads of the tire that are rubbing against the road. It will be actually the sidewalls of the tire that will start rubbing against the road. You're going to shorten the length of the tire. You could end up running into some problems in terms of your wheel alignment and some other things. If it's designed to operate at 33 pounds of pressure and you've got 50 in there, you still run, still have some challenges. However, you're driving on a hot summer day, you might experience something unexpected, like the tire blowout while you're driving, because there's too much air pressure. You're operating in a way that's different than how it was designed to operate. And so there are a lot of things that we do with our bodies. There are a lot of things that we put into our bodies. There are a lot of things that we do in our bodies in terms of how we put stress on ourselves from even a mental standpoint that end up resulting in a negative impact on our body. And the body can continue to go for a while, but you start to notice there are different problems happening. right? You'll start to notice there are different problems happening. Now, I'm not going to lecture you right now about the importance of a healthy diet or anything like that. I'm not going to, browbeat anybody. What I really want to talk about is, in a very real and a very true sense, a lot of things that we end up experiencing in our bodies are the result of things that are unresolved within us. Yeah, there are things that we put in our bodies physically in terms of what we eat and what we drink that aren't necessarily, vibing well with our bodies. A lot of the things that we eat nowadays didn't even exist as food 100 years ago, 50 years ago even. Yeah, there are a lot of ways where we take chemicals into our bodies in ways that we didn't before. The body doesn't really quite know how to process that. Ends up being stored as fat in the body, ends up being causing stress on the body. Stuff ends up getting stored in the body that ends up, resulting in some sickness and some disease. Sure, but that's not really so much what I'm wanting to talk about right now on today. What I'm wanting to talk about right now on today is how all of our whole beingness is really connected. Okay. I know that if you have hypertension, you might take a pill for it, right? The doctor might prescribe something for you to take for it. But is there a deeper cause for the hypertension? Is there any correlation between stress in your life and hypertension? Hmm. What is stress? Stress is really boils down to one thing, basically. Stress really boils down to, and let me say distress, because there's a difference between distress and eustress. Distress has more of a negative impact, whereas eustress is a little bit different. Um, that doesn't have that same negative impact. But in terms of stress, the real root of stress, which is really at the cause of a lot of sickness and disease that we end up experiencing in our bodies. What's really tied to stress is resistance to what is, right? Resistance to what is. Now, there's a lot of stuff that happens in our world. There are a lot of things that happen in our world that I believe are not in accordance with the divine design, according to which God set things in motion. Um, there are things that need to be addressed. There are things that need to be changed. In fact, I pray every day the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. But there are certain things that are out of our control. Certain things that we can't control, but that we somehow internally want to, and that creates stress in the body. As a result of that, it creates chemical reactions in our body. Stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, norepinephrine rise up, right? And these stress hormones, they do actually have a purpose. The purpose is to get us to act. You end up getting this burst of adrenaline to help you run away from danger or help you defend yourself in the face of danger, right? And so it has a purpose. It can make you temporarily stronger. It's going to elevate your heart rate, hopefully cause circulation to increase throughout your body, uh, and give you more energy in a moment. But it's not designed. We're not designed to be at that state all the time. That's supposed to be a temporary thing to help us in a momentary situation, to allow us to survive in situations that would be perhaps threatening our survival, right? Now, the reality is this: in today's world, most of us are not in situations where we are trying to run and get away from a wild animal that's about to you know, pounce on us and look to have us as a meal. That's not the case. And the reality is, and I've said this before, if you think that you're being chased by a wild animal, your blood, but you actually aren't, your blood coagulates 8 times faster than if you were actually running from a wild animal. And so that's that stress that I was talking about. We aren't in situations where we're running from a wild animal nowadays. We get stressed about what's going on social media, what's happening in the news. There are a lot of things that happen on a daily basis that put us in a state, or that have us a lot of times in a state of that same distress as if we were running from a wild animal. Our heart starts to elevate, but we're not actually working at all. When the heart rate is elevated, the purpose of that is to increase blood circulation to certain areas of the body, to have us move, to be able to get more oxygen to the muscles of our body, to have us move and such, and so that the body doesn't break down in the process of that. There's certain energy that needs to be worn off. Okay, but if you're experiencing that distress but not wearing that energy off, you just start to, it's like you begin to overheat. Get ready to blow a gasket. And really, quite honestly, this isn't what all I was planning on talking about today. We kind of went down in that direction a little bit. But ultimately, what it is that I want to convey to all of us, is that we are holistic beings. We're a multifaceted, multidimensional beings. And it's so critically important, I believe, for us to deal with the whole beingness of a person, And in terms of the allopathic medical industry, it's mainly focused on just the physical body. In terms of, mental health, it's just usually focused on that one aspect of the body. But the reality is that it's all interconnected. It's all interconnected. And I want to say to you today, beloved, that you might right now have some health condition going on in your body that is related to something that happened a long time ago. There's nothing that any pill can do to resolve that trauma that took place emotionally. There could be an issue that you're facing, that you're dealing with, that you don't have any conscious awareness of it because it didn't even happen in your lifetime. It didn't even happen in your lifetime. There's a person who ended up working with. She would get depressed leading up to Thanksgiving, around Thanksgiving time every year. And it was difficult to deal with. There wasn't a logical reason for her, from her standpoint, of why she was getting depressed around Thanksgiving each year. Okay. It turned out that there was some tie to some Native American ancestry there. Now, this woman did not appear Native American, but apparently there was some connection to some Native American ancestry within her DNA, where that wasn't a time of celebration, where it was actually a time of mourning, because the colonizers did harm to those who were on the planet, or what we call the United States now, before they had arrived, and they end up losing land and lives as a result of the colonizers coming in. And anyway, we got that resolved. This was many years ago. For many years, she had been dealing with this like depression at Thanksgiving time every year. We dealt with that. We got that cleared up. And now she no longer has that issue come Thanksgiving time. And so there are certain things that show up that we don't necessarily have a conscious awareness of why those things are there. Guess what? There's no pill that could have resolved that deep subconscious issue that was dwelling within her DNA that had been passed down from many generations before. But it was there. It was there. And it was there in order to be cleared up. And when it was cleared up, it not only benefited her, it benefited future generations. And in a way, it was something of a redemption for those who had gone on before her, who had experienced that trauma. Now, you can choose to believe me or not. I'm just telling you, this is the reality of what I've experienced. And it hasn't just been one or two times either, on a number of different occasions. I've seen things that, people had experienced as trauma when they were yet in the womb, that they didn't have any conscious awareness of. It ended up manifesting in their lives physically, or in terms of some blockage of some sort in their lives. We got it resolved, and that shift really quickly was able to take place, because so often what we think is the issue really isn't the issue. I'm not going to say it isn't the issue, but it's not the root of the issue. Okay. It's got a deeper cause at the root. And until that root ends up being addressed, the weed is going to continue to grow, right? The weed is going to continue to grow. And so if there's anybody who's actually dealing with any health challenge, whether that's a physical health challenge, or even dealing with any challenge emotionally or spiritually, please feel free to put it in the chat. We'd be more than happy to address it during the broadcast today. All you've got to do is sit there. I do ask that you kind of pay attention to what's going on, because I don't really like when I'm asking for feedback on how you're doing now, and I'm waiting like a couple minutes to hear anything back. It just doesn't support the flow of what we're doing here very well. But if anybody has any issue that you're dealing with, we've helped people with pain on the spot. We've supported people who had COVID and were dealing with some really tough things with COVID. We've helped them to feel much better right on the spot. We've had people who've been dealing with grief and some other emotional things that we've offered some support right on the spot. And we're here to offer that for you. It doesn't have to make sense how it's possible. I can't explain to you how it's possible that I'm sitting in this guest room at my brother's house in South Florida, and you, wherever you are on the planet, are able to hear my voice and see my image, see me talking. I can't explain the technology to you of how that's able to happen, but guess what? It was human beings that made that technology possible. The technology that's available for healing to happen remotely, on the spot, instantaneously. God created that technology. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say, what God is able to create definitely surpasses what humans are able to create. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But I'd like to check in with you all. How are you all doing out there? How is everything in you all's world? Anybody dealing with any aches, any pains, any stress, anxiety, worry, frustration, guilt, shame, tumors, gout, high blood pressure, any kind of issues? If so, let us know. Be more than happy to support you on that. And really, again, those things are just showing up as an indication that there's something else that is not quite in balance, that there's something else that really needs to to be addressed. If you've got a foul odor in your home, you can spray Lysol or Breeze or whatever else, but you're just masking it. You're not really getting rid of the odor until you address the root. Take the trash out. If that's what it is that's causing, if that's what's causing the problem. So my brother's in the house. What's up, D? And yeah, so we'll offer some support for her in terms of some COVID challenges, and it's my understanding that she's not feeling a lot from the standpoint of symptoms, but we'll still offer some support nonetheless. So I'm going to say a little prayer real quickly, and sometimes I do it out loud, sometimes I just do it silently. Sometimes I can go in deeper and more quickly, just silently, and I'll just do that now real quickly. Okay. All right. Thank you, God. And so let's offer some support there. Also, if you know of anybody else who's dealing with COVID, hold them in your heart. Set your intention that they're going to be included in this healing as well. Okay? All right. And so I want to take a moment and first really look quickly at, I want to look at the immune system. Collectively, the immune system. Now, what is the immune system? Most of the immune system, about 70% of the immune system, is in our gut. The immune system is designed to fight off things that would seek to cause harm. COVID-19 is a virus. A virus, different than a bacteria. A virus is very, 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 very small and can make its way to different places because of how small it is, and can wreak a lot of havoc. It can be difficult that's why antibiotics don't really treat viruses, because they operate a little bit differently. And the way the immune system is set up, the immune system is set up to attack or to fight, to ward off anything in the body that is seeking to cause the body problems. Viruses are a little bit tricky because they're so small and they hide in a lot of interesting places, and they can just wreak havoc. So we want to address the immune system. Now, the immune system is really the defense mechanism of the body. A lot of times our immune system ends up becoming weaker because we're expending a lot of energy psychologically trying to defend ourselves from what's perceived danger. Let's address that real quick. So remember earlier, I was talking about stress, how stress shows up in our lives. We don't find ourselves physically running from a wild animal that's seeking to eat us very often in our society today. But we still experience that level of daily stress as if that's part of our reality for us to be able to survive. And so we a lot of times put up different walls. So I want to address the deep psychological things that cause us to feel the need to put up walls to try to protect ourselves as a result of emotional pain that we felt in the past. Experiences of feeling disappointed. I want to replace that sense of disappointment with a sense of relief, a sense of grace, ease and grace. Sometimes put up barriers or put up self-defense mechanisms to protect ourselves from harm from the outside. It's a very natural thing for us as humans to do that. And what it is that we end up doing is we, like on a deep, deep, deep level, we think that it's better for us to cause ourselves harm than to let somebody else cause us harm. But yet we still think that we're due some harm somehow. And then we end up kind of causing it to ourselves, not intentionally. We want to bring love into the space where we hold those wrong thoughts. Bring the love of God into that space. It helps to help us feel safe. Right. Thank you, God. That's what we're ultimately wanting, is to feel safe, to feel protected. And a lot of times we exert a lot of energy in an attempt to protect ourselves. We might do it in a number of different ways, but it's draining on us. It depletes our immune system. I want to also kind of offer some support to replace this need to protect ourselves so much. So we kind of guard our hearts, we guard our emotions, we try to keep people from getting too close to us because we don't want them to hurt us. We replace that with knowing that God is our protector. And we can rest in that, find comfort in that, find peace in that, find security, and safety in that. To boost up that finding safety in that. And in that finding safety, we can breathe easy in that. You see how this stuff is connected? COVID messes largely with the respiratory system. Although it can definitely impact other areas of the body too. Okay. And then let's look at deep subconscious programming, making it resistance to truly breathe in the breath of God, the breath of life, that ruach, breath, wind, spirit is the word in Hebrew means. Okay. And let's look at trust. Boost up trust in God and trusting those worthy of trust. It's maybe not so good to trust those who aren't worthy of our trust, but there are people who are, who want to boost that up. Okay. All righty. And one thing that comes with COVID, they can create a sense of isolation. And so we want to address that sense of isolation. And we actually want to redirect where that sense of isolation is to actually isolating the problem rather than us having to isolate ourselves or having to be in a position of having to feel isolated. To actually isolate the problem and welcome the presence of the love of God into the place where the problem is, to that problem area. And anybody, whether you have COVID or not, whether you know somebody with COVID or not, feel free to tap into the part that's coming up that resonates on some level with you. Right. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. All righty. All right. And I want to also address any feelings of betrayal or feeling unsafe with those with whom you should be able to feel safe. Okay, it's looking a little better. All right. All right. All right. I'm going to look at any sense of um, feeling restricted, feeling confined, feeling imprisoned. Here we go. Feeling imprisoned. I'm going to transmute that into and replace it with feeling set free, feeling liberated, feeling empowered, feeling invigorated. All right. Feeling truly at one. Sometimes referred to as atoned. Atoned is the same thing as at one. All right. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. All righty. All right. What else do we want to look at here? Let's look at just kind of general, some from an emotional standpoint, any sense of guilt or shame, resentment. I'm going to transmute any sense of resentment into authentic forgiveness. Authentic forgiveness. Forgiveness of some other. Forgiveness of self. Give some more energy there. That's looking better. Thank you, God. And resentment towards God. Did I say that? Yes. People deal with resentment towards God and yet don't feel safe to even own it. Guess what? God is not offended by your little measly human emotions, people. It's better for us to own it and to deal with it, to get past it, than to act like it doesn't exist. And, there can be even shame about having negative emotions towards God. The reality is, a lot of times when we experience things that we can't understand in our lives, we don't know what to do with that. And sometimes we end up kind of blaming God in the midst of that. God, where were you? Why weren't you here? Why did you let this happen? And the reality is, we're seeing things from a limited perspective. There is a bigger picture, some things that we're not necessarily seeing. And sometimes in the midst of that, there's resentment, there's anger towards God that comes up. We invite greater understanding into the place where that resentment, where that anger, where that hostility, where that rage, where those things show up. Right? Thank you. And open to having our spiritual vision purified and clarified to be able to see the big picture clearly and to operate in alignment in that context, which is a much greater context than how we're typically looking at things. Okay. All right, I want to look also at the collective consciousness of humanity and how it's making its impact. I want to look also even very specifically at collective consciousness as it relates to a sense of fear. We get locked into this fear. Oh, I've said it before, the fear being false evidence appearing real. Again, we see things in part now. There'll be a time where we'll see things as they actually are. But right now we're seeing a very, very minute piece of the whole picture. And we're not understanding the whole thing because we're only seeing it through the lenses of our own experience. And our own experiences, no matter how much we've experienced, are nonetheless very limited. Okay. Kind of like your internet searches. You ever notice you look up certain things on the internet and it feeds you more stuff like that? I'm here at my brother and sister in love and niece's place. I had turned on the television on the YouTube. There was stuff that was there that I never see on YouTube. It was stuff that's based on their searches on YouTube. My searches on YouTube, on my own YouTube at home, are very different. So it just gives me more of the stuff that I'm already exposed to. Here on their YouTube, it gives more of the stuff that they're exposed to. But they're almost two entirely different worlds, totally different types of information that's showing up. And that's how it is for us in the reality of the experience of our lives. We see more of what aligns with where it is that we already are. Okay. And so that ends up staying limited. And then we end up getting further feedback, or we get reinforced that this is what's so. It's not that that's what's so. That's a part of what's so. It's not the totality of it. A blind person can't touch a person's fingernail and describe what, well, blind person assumes to have a human body themselves. A blind person can't touch the tail of an elephant and assume what the whole elephant looks like. Right? You're just getting a piece of it. Have an awareness of that part that they're familiar with, but not really having a clear sense of what the whole thing entails. And that's how we are. That's how we are. We're blinded by the limitations of our own personal experiences. Okay. All right. So let's deal with opening our eyes to be able to see a broader landscape. Poet said there's a plan greater than the plan you know, a landscape broader than the one you see. That's true for all of us. I was talking with a person recently who said she's traveled to 20 different countries. She has a different perspective on life than the person who's only stayed within a 90-mile radius of where they were born. They're different things happening in different places, people relating to the world and each other differently. you know. So we want to really deal with any kind of programs of limitation. Okay. And open up for the possibility of there being more possibilities. And some of those possibilities are even better. Yes. Thank you, God. All righty. All right. Thank you, God. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. And let's deal with this real quickly. Let's deal with attuning and aligning one's human mind to the mind of God, where there are infinite possibilities for good, infinite number of ways in which blessings can be made manifest, included in which are that which we will call the miraculous. And so we open up ourselves to the possibility of miracles manifested in our own lives. And without the need to necessarily even be able to explain it, but just being okay with the occurrence thereof. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. All right. Yeah, we thank you for this healing that's taking place today. Thank you for all of the things that were addressed, all of the ways in which, as a result of the things that came up today, where there's some level of improvement, physical as well as non-physical. Give you honor for showing up here today, and deep gratitude for the ability to participate in some level of healing taking place on this day and in this time and space called now. I thank you for this gift of your divine love. I affirm it is done. It is done. It is done. In Hashem Yeshua HaMashiach. Ashe and Amen. Okay. Alrighty. Well, hopefully she's feeling better even as we speak right now. Hopefully you all also kind of tapped into this and drawing some benefit from it. It's just about that time to sign off, but want to check in if anybody has any questions, if anybody has any comments. You hear me saying the things that I'm saying, but that's not where the real profundity of what's taking place isn't in the words that you hear me saying. I'm saying words because it would be awfully boring for this to happen with me sitting here being silent in a live broadcast. But what's essentially happening is there's some powerful stuff going on. And it's beautiful to be able to participate in it. It really is beautiful to be able to participate in it. And it's one of the greatest honors of my life, I can say that for sure. And it can be something that you can access as well. Really, all it really boils down to is really us clarifying our vision, realizing the oneness that exists between us all. Scripture says that if your eye is single, then your whole body will be filled with a light. Single, we frequently think of single as the exact opposite of what it actually is. And in terms of relationship status, we think of single as being non-connected. That's not what single means. What single actually means is being wholly connected. And I tell you, there are a lot of us, myself included, I've done it. We get in relationships before we become single. What I mean that by that is not about being unfaithful. I have not done that, and that's not what I'm talking about. To be single means to be whole, to be non-fragmented. We have a lot of times in relationships, we refer to this person as my other half. The person isn't your other half. Not if you're both whole. And if we're not whole within ourselves, we'll be looking for somebody else to fill a void in us that puts unnecessary pressure on them. We need to be whole within ourselves. And that's what being single is being whole. Being single means being one, which is not being less than one or a fraction or fragmented. If your eye is whole, if your eye is one, if you're seeing things rightly, you're honoring and recognizing that you are one with God and one with everyone and everything else, then your whole body will be filled with light. Sickness and dis-ease are a function of a darkness. By welcoming in the presence of the light, the darkness disappears, and the natural occurrence of the light appearing in the presence of the darkness is that the darkness goes away and that healing becomes manifest. All right. And so this work, this healing work, it's really about us purifying our own spiritual vision to be able to see more clearly, to see the person's wholeness in the midst of what they're experiencing as sickness and disease. And me being able to purify my vision brings me closer to God, and it brings that other person in a greater experience of their wholeness, because in reality, we really are all connected. You want to see a child grow up to be something amazing? Feed into their potential. Tell them that they're special, that they're unique. Let them never doubt it. They won't help but to grow up to become that. I saw something beautiful. I thought that I don't think that I saved it to my phone. I saw something beautiful on social media recently. Nope, I didn't. I wish I did. It was beautiful. It was truly beautiful. I as my late grandfather, John A. Hall, would say, I disremember. The reality is we don't forget anything. We just don't recall it. It's stored somewhere in the DNA of the cells of my body somewhere. The heart of what it got at was really speaking positive things into the lives of children, because they'll grow up to become what they believe they are. Okay. And that's true for all of us. And that's one of the reasons that we do this hope and healing session. That's one of the reasons that I seek to offer encouragement and speak life into those who are here. There's a lot of speaking death into us, in a lot of different places. Um, I just seek to be a voice that's speaking life into us, that's speaking love into us, that's speaking hope and healing into us. And I love for others to link up and do the same. I love for others to link up and do the same. If you, by any chance, have an interest in the work that we do as far as uh, the the healing is concerned, if you're interested in training, feel free to reach out to me at Royce Fletcher Thomason on Facebook or on Instagram, or Transcending the Matrix on Instagram. And just reach out to me, send me a direct message, and we'll make it happen. Uh, Ultimately, the more people that we can get seen rightly, the more people we can get operating from a space of pure love, I believe the more love and light there will be on the planet, the less we'll see of hatred and violence and inhumanity towards one another. And in place, the more we'll see harmony and peace and love and joy, togetherness, unity, and um, and we'll get to participate in downloading a little bit of heaven onto earth. That's what I'm about as we seek to work towards that sustainable state of supreme satisfaction. God bless you. I love you. Sending you a bunch of peace and love, and we'll catch you next time.